Hello and welcome back to the Little Craft House. Today is the first in a series of 2 weeks worth of tutorials all about Valentine's Day earrings. So today's tutorial is my top 3 super simple ideas ready to get you started on your way to having a Valentine's Day collection. So a disclaimer here, the second idea I do get a little bit tricky in, however I do show you the simple version first. So they are all lots of fun, you're really easy, so whether you're a beginner or more experienced, you're going to enjoy these. Let's get started, let's have some fun, and don't forget to come back next week for another idea. The first idea here is going to zoom through pretty quickly because I filmed it for Instagram and I just did it in time lapse. So I'm just starting off by doing a colour blend. I'm using those 4 colours, backing it on a piece of white, and then I'm just going to put it through the pasta machine again and again and again until my blend has blended up really nicely. And by backing it with the white, it makes it go into a pastel tone. So it looks really pretty. I'm then just going to get my small love heart cutter and cut out as many hearts as I can get. And then randomly placing them onto this black backing, just loosely placing them down at first so that I have the ability to move them if I need to, and then I'll put a bit of baking paper on top and just give them a little press down to secure them. I didn't film that part, however, as I only filmed up to this part for some reason, and I didn't even film cutting out the pieces. But here they are once they are cut, baked and drilled, and I think they look pretty good. So I'm just going to match them up here with some little toppers and then grab out my findings to assemble them together. This is definitely a really super simple idea and it can be changed depending on what theme. So I have previously done it at Christmas time with Christmas colours, and I've also done it with some bright circles as well. So I'm pretty sure I had both those tutorials here on YouTube. So if you do want to see them in more of a full step-by-step tutorial, just go scrolling back through some of those videos and see if you can find them. If I remember, I'll link them in the description box. So these ones worked out pretty good. I'm quite impressed with them, and I think I might have to do some more because I didn't get an awful lot of pieces out of that slab, but yeah, definitely look really nice and definitely fit the Valentine's theme. Next up is another really simple but really effective idea. These are the Puffy Heart technique. So you may have seen this floating around on Instagram a little bit. I also recently did a video doing it too. It is super simple. I'm just going to show you here with this peachy coloured clay to start with. So I've just rolled it out probably to about a 1.5 to 2 mil thickness. Put my cutter on top and flipped it over. I'm using a ball tool here to now just push the clay down into that cutter a little bit, and that is what's going to make the puffy effect. Now, if you didn't have a ball tool, the end of something like a paintbrush will also work well. You just don't want anything too sharp that's going to pierce the clay. So as you can see, it's kind of puffed into the cutter there, and then I'm going to place it on another piece of clay to be the base. And then as you push it down, you'll notice that that top part rises up a little bit and makes it even more puffy. So we've trapped some air inside, and yeah, it just looks like a cute little puffy heart. So as I remove it here, there we go. So it's like 3D and chunky, but without being too heavy because it is hollow on the inside. So that is definitely a super simple thing you can do. You could then turn that into a bead or whatever you like, really. You could do a brooch if you did it bigger. The options are endless, but I'm not going to use this one. I'm actually just going to scrunch it up, squish it, because I'm going to do a more complex version now. So I know I've titled this tutorial Super Simple Ideas. The puffy heart was a simple idea, but now, of course, I just have to be a little bit more tricky and do something a little bit more fancy. So I've got my white polymer clay here and I've rolled it out, and we're going to use a water transfer. Now, usually when you use a water transfer, you would bond it to a tile. Well, I'm going to be a little bit of a rebel and I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to do. I will give you a spoiler alert now though, things do go wrong because I didn't follow the rules. I didn't do it properly. But I did it another time breaking the rules and it worked. This time, however, when I filmed it, it didn't work. Anyway, normally with water transfers, you would bond that transfer to the clay. Because it's not firm down on something, the paper doesn't actually bond properly like it should, which is probably why I run into issues. But anyway, I've bonded it down. I'm trying my best to keep it together, but yeah, there, it just lifted up. So future reference, make sure you do it on a tile. And make sure you follow the application instructions correctly. In the bathroom, again, I've zoomed in a little bit too close, so I do apologise that you can't see properly. But this is where things start to go wrong. Because it's not bonded down, the water literally just washes the print off. Yeah, as you can see there, yep, I'm making a big mess. I'm kind of going, oh dear, how can I fix it? It's actually a little bit beyond saving in those bits, and I just made it worse. So in the end, I just kind of decided to just run it back under the water, not touch it, and just use what was left on the clay. So there was still enough to work with here. I'm just going to cut the piece in half and just make these pieces a little bit more usable. So there's definitely enough room there to put the heart. I will only be getting one pair out of this though, however, I thought I was going to get two. And again, I'm just going to push down the clay. Now, the first time I did this, I was worried that the print might crack or stretch. I think because the print is a little bit more spaced out, it didn't do that. If it was more of a full print, that may happen. Yeah, this was a bit of a learning lesson, making sure that you definitely follow the instructions properly for using the water transfers. I also found that I think because the print was on the clay didn't stick to the cutter as well as what it did when I did that peach one, which was raw. The raw plain clay didn't that stuck quite well to the cutter. This one kept kind of lifting, so I was kind of holding it together and the puffiness didn't work quite as well. So yeah, again, just going to now place that onto the plain piece of clay for the base and squish it down. And of course it got stuck in the cutter, so I'm just going to push it upwards because I don't want to flatten that little bubble that we've created. So by pushing it up, I'm just pushing on the base and not on that domed side. But that turned out pretty cute and I'm definitely happy with it. And so because I'm going to make these into earrings, I won't be able to drill to be able to hang them from the findings. So I'm going to add some of these little screws to the piece. I'm going to use my tweezers because when I use my hands it just becomes so fidgety. I'm just going to very gently push the screw into the clay like so, giving it a little bit of a wiggle. And once I'm happy with its positioning, I'm just going to pop this aside. So when we do bake it up, it won't have any issues having the finding already in it. I've baked with metal findings all the time and I've never had an issue. That is something that I do get asked quite a lot about. I think it's just because of the low temperatures that we're baking the clay at. It's not hot enough to affect the metal at all. And so I am just doing the second heart here. And the trick with the second one is to make sure that we push it into the cutter the same amount so that they both have equal puffiness. So both of those turned out pretty cute. And these are the two that I did yesterday. So they were the ones where I broke the rules and it did work. Today it was a little bit messier, but it still worked. I've also done the purple ones there too and attached the findings. I quite like that overly hope look, but I don't have any more here. So with the other hearts, I'm just going to attach them to a hook. I didn't think that they needed anything too fancy on the top because they kind of speak for themselves, and I think they look great just how they are. First though, I am going to remove each of those screws, so I'm just unscrewing them, and I'm going to add a little bit of my E6000 glue. This is going to help to keep them in position properly, because just in case they want to pull out, if they get knocked or something while someone's wearing them. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the screw and then screw them back into those holes. And so this is just, I thought I'd just show you a little close-up of that finished one there with its overly hoop. And then I'm just going to attach the hooks onto the hearts. So I needed to leave the hearts to let that glue dry. Usually recommend at least 24 to 48 hours for it to dry. I didn't quite leave it that long, but I'm just being really gentle as I'm attaching that hook there. And usually I would leave it longer. For the purpose of the tutorial, I just really wanted to get them finished. And so to our final idea today for Valentine's earrings, we are going to do a trio of hearts. When I make these trios, I like each heart to have a different element about it. So I'm actually going to texture the pink here with some sandpaper. So this is quite a gritty sandpaper. And I'm just going to press this on and put that print into it. The purple is a nice scrappy glittery mix, so that one's really pretty. And then we're going to also add another texture to that peachy apricot colour as well. I'm not quite sure if you can see that texture here, so what I'll do is I'll just cut out a couple of these hearts to start with, and then I'll be able to show you it closer. Can you see that there? It's got like a little bumpy texture. That sandpaper is my favourite one to use. I think it's a 40 grit. It's got the number 40 on the back. Yeah, that's my favourite. So I'm just going to cut these hearts out and then I shall move them to the side. When it comes to holes, I like to drill my holes after they're baked. If you do like to do holes beforehand, I suggest that you don't do it at the moment, but do it afterwards when we organise the order of these. So I'm going to cut out a couple of the purple ones as well. Sometimes if I pre-plan on doing this design, when I'm doing other slab work and earrings during the month or so beforehand, I'll pre-cut some out so that I've got some hearts to the side ready to coordinate. And I actually do have some already at the side, so I'll show you those ones afterwards. So with the peachy one here, there's so many different things you can use to texture, but I do have this little texture roller. So I don't use this very often. So I'm just making sure everything's away on the side, and the secret is to do it as one consistent roll. That way it keeps the pattern nice and consistent and doesn't put a dip into your clay. So again, just going to cut out a couple of these hearts. I'm just making sure that I'm picking the area of pattern that's going to best be displayed on those hearts. And then using my flexi blade to just lift them from the tile. You can see that design there, that looks really cool, I like that. Okay, so they are all baked up. I used a water transfer on these ones as well. I had those ones to the side from when I did water transfer during the week. I also had that little red heart. So one's got the texture that I just did before, and I've got some plain ones from the other week that I made. So I've got a few different colours. Oh, this peachy one I used a different texture roller. So that one's got like more of a floral design on it compared to the swirly one that I used today. So I've got to make sure that I pair them right. I don't want to get them mixed up. So now comes the fun part of organising them. It's a trio of hearts, so I want 3 hearts in each pair of earrings. Now I can put them like that so that they're symmetrical, but what I actually like to do is mix it up a little bit and have them go in a bit of a different pattern. Not symmetrical, not matching. I quite like that. So I'm going to do that with each of these, moving them around, working out what pattern I want to do. And luckily I had some other ones to the side that I was able to use for this design here. So they are a bit of a marbled pattern. And once it's all organised and in the patterns and shapes that you want to use, it's time for drilling. So I mentioned before about if you were to do holes whilst they were raw, I would have done that organising of the patterns whilst they were raw and then put the holes in and then baked them up. But now these are all baked. I've just grabbed the bottom heart from each of those pairs and I'm going to drill the holes. So these ones, because they're the bottom heart, they only need a hole in the top. Now I'm very awkwardly positioned to do this because I usually work at a bit of a different positioning and the cord was getting in my way, so I've kind of had to put it behind me here. Yeah, so that's why I look a little bit, well, I felt awkward doing it anyway. But yes, so just a hole in the top, making sure not to come down too low, but also not being too high that it's going to chip the top. And then once the bottom ones are done, that's when we can drill holes in the rest. So all of the rest of them, all the rest of the hearts all need a hole in the top and in the bottom. Now, if you're anything like me, you forget what order you had all of the hearts in to start with. So what I do like to do is take a photograph of them all in their groups before I move them to start drilling. That way I can refer back to it and get that pattern the same when I'm assembling them. Okay, so it's time to assemble them. I'm finding all the ball studs that I would like to use. I like to top these with just the little simple balls. It doesn't take away from the design that way, just nice and simple. So yes, I am using 8mm jump rings today, and I'm hoping that that's going to have enough space for these to hang and to have enough movement, which, yep, they do. If the bottoms of each of the hearts was touching the top of the next one and it didn't move freely, I'd probably go up to a size 10 jump ring. Otherwise, if you find that it's just a little bit, sometimes sanding the bottom point of the heart just a tiny bit can sometimes give you just enough space to have that free bit of movement without ruining the shape of the heart. So that's just a little trick I like to do sometimes. I was pretty lucky with all of these though, and they all were able to move nice and freely and jiggle around, as you can see there. So I'll get all of these carded up shortly and they will all be ready for my Valentine's Day markets. Well, I'd just like to say a huge thank you for joining me today for this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Definitely making these hearts has been lots of fun, and I think I may have to keep a few of these pairs for myself. If you do take some inspo from today's tutorial, I would love if you would tag me so that I can see what you've made. So thanks once again for joining me, and I'll see you next week with another Valentine's Day idea. See you then. Bye.